kutoka milimani, Muungani hadi pwani. Elo inasimama kwa sauti huru,
kwa uadilifu na haki, sisi tuko imara.
Hi, my name is Karen Wambui Waithira, and I am your host for the Darubini ya Uchaguzi podcast. I'm really excited to host this conversation today, especially because it's an intersection of something that I care deeply, that is youth, identity, and our role in shaping electoral processes. As someone who works in this election space, civic engagement, and youth advocacy, I've come to learn that your voice or our voice is only as strong as a system that recognizes it. And when the systems don't acknowledge your identity digitally or even physically, that means then your rights, including your right to vote, can easily be overlooked. That's why we're saying that today's conversation is important. Your identity, your vote is so timely. We're joined by two incredible guests from Identity A2, an organization doing transformative work around digital identity, inclusion, and rights in Kenya. And today, in this two-segment session, they'll help us unpack how identity systems, from IDs to biometrics to Maisha namba, affect youth participation in elections, and what we can do to make the systems easier, more just, and inclusive. So before we dive in, I'd like to give our first guest a moment to introduce herself, tell us her name, what she does at Identity A2, and what excites her the most about today's conversation.
Hi, my name is Naomi. I'm part of a generation where we can vote with our feet, but you can't get a voter's card, you can't get an ID without a chief, a photocopy, and divine intervention. I'm so excited for this conversation because it's going to give us a chance to talk about digital identity, our voting rights, and why Kenya's youth keep being ghosted by the very system that we need the most. I am a member of the Identity A2 committee. We do civic and political education across the country. We have just finished our run in Meru, and we are on the road to our next counties. Yeah.
I love that. I liked how they're not only speaking about Nairobi, but they're also going to nationally with this work. So thank you very much for being on our show. And I think the first thing before we start moving into this conversation is perhaps I'd like to ask if you can define for us what digital identity means.
In Kenya or
in Kenya, in our context, and how you understand it.
Digital, I think, ideally, digital identity is the ability for systems to allow for the easy, efficient, and effective transaction of business, whether it's getting your ID, your voter's card, getting public services easily without too much paperwork. So we need more QR codes than lines and queues. Yes. But in Kenya, your digital identity is like a ghost. Everybody talks about digital identity, but it only shows up when you don't need it. When you actually do need it, it's really very absent.
Love that. Nasikia vile amesema digital identity is like a ghost in our country. So hold on to that. We'll be unpacking that in our conversation as we move on. So that leads way into what you're going to be talking about. So probably I'd want to know, when you talk about digital identity in the electoral context, as a young person also working in this space, I'd want to know, how do you understand it?
Digital identity in the electoral process should really be a true thing for us. It shouldn't be just an idea. If we go to the Constitution of Kenya, I carried my Constitution, so whenever I'm having legal discussions, we refer to the highest laws of the land, the ultimate. So in Article 81 of Chapter 7 of the Constitution of Kenya, it is the article addressing the general principles of the electoral system. And there's the first section where it talks about the compliance, the rules that the IEBC should comply to. And then in now, Article 81, Section E says free and fair elections shall be held. And this is by secret ballot, free from violence, intimidation, improper influence, or corruption, conducted by an independent body, transparent, and administered in an impartial, neutral, efficient, accurate, and accountable manner. Now, you see, the current situation in Kenya is one that does not allow for the last part of Section E of Article 81 to be fully achieved, because you see what happens is that we vote by paper, and you can easily tamper with that. What we need is tamper-proof elections, which can only be held online. If you look at the case of Brazil, even in the US, people voted from home. You didn't need to go there physically. And in the current era, in the digital age that we live in, we really need to address this issue and move from paper elections and queues elections to being able to vote online, like via the e-citizen platforms. Such platforms should be created to allow for the youth in Kenya, for everybody, really, every citizen, every person with a voter's card, every person with an ID to register their vote without having to queue, without having to do so much paperwork.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So now I'd want us and the people who are listening in to understand, if perhaps you can explain how, just as you have said, ID is more than a card, and how the state sees and gives us the rights and access to the identification card, which you can now use to vote or actually access any services that you might probably need.
Okay. You see, an ID is really ufunguo wa kila kitu nchini. Without an ID, you cannot buy land, you can't get even funds for M-Kopa, you cannot transact any business, you cannot be recognized by your government. There's so much that goes into having an ID, you get? And even without an ID, you cannot really claim to be with the people, because an ID gives you the power to hold a voter's card. You first have to have an ID for you to get a voter's card. And a voter's card is what allows you to donate power. And so in the Constitution of Kenya, when we look at the first article, which is the sovereignty of the people, all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance to the Constitution. If you read down, you'll find that there's allowance for the people of Kenya too. When it says the people shall, the people may. And when we say we the people of Kenya are only those people who have voters' cards and who are able to donate power. If you cannot donate power, then you really cannot claim to be with the people of Kenya, because how did you get to that? It's like a qualification. You need to have a voter's card. That means you need to have an ID. Then you have a voter's card. Then you now qualify to be with the people of Kenya. So there are rights and freedoms that come only to a voter. You can only recall your MP. You can only vote. You can only decide who goes to represent you. You can only donate power by having those two very important documents. Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, just to kind of ask a question that will tie into our next conversation, is there a Maisha number rollout?
Currently, yes. There's a new system of IDs that has changed the IDs as we knew them before. And when we were beginning the concept of Identity A2, we actually visited the National Registration Bureau, and we spoke with the overall boss, and he told us that the idea of the Maisha number is to digitize and to allow for this now, the services that we would want to be made online, made available online. It is to make the process easier. And people were raising questions about the chip. He said that the chip is a security feature that contains your biometrics. So, and the replacement is also because your fingerprints wear out, and sometimes the replacement process, it's an advanced security feature. So I wouldn't speak about the legality of a Maisha number or those Maisha cards instead of the ID card as we understand them, because it is a complex issue and it's actually a matter that is still in court. There's a lot of dispute whether it is legal, what process was used to roll it out, and how, and what happens then, and the charges that come with it. And so I wouldn't really talk about the legalities because I have not done extensive research into that. But yes, the Maisha cards are being issued.
Thank you. Thank you for actually giving us a backdrop on the current ongoing situation and the Maisha number. I think what I just wanted to ask is, obviously, I do like the fact that you have highlighted that there are some questions around it, in as much as we can't cover it extensively because you're also researching on it. So, in what ways then do you think us young people and probably others who are watching and within this space and outside can engage with reforms on the rollout of the Maisha number?
My personal recommendations would be, since the government acknowledges the Maisha number, whether or not it was taken or accepted legally, then it is important for every young person who has, if you have your ID, like for those of us who didn't meet the Maisha card, if you have your ID, well and good. But for those who are just attaining the age of majority, the ones who are just getting to 18, it is very important for them to get the cards. Why? Because that is like step one. Like when the government says that, do you have your Maisha card? Then in the event that the court overrules the validity of the Maisha card, then the government would say, if you have your Maisha card, then this is the process. This is what should happen next. But for the sake of the upcoming elections and the services that you'll require from the government, I think it's very important for those who are attaining the age of majority to go and acquire those cards. We were also assured about their safety. There are questions arising around the safeties of the biometrics, their details, and giving very sensitive information to the government. And the NRB chair or PS or something, I think he was called, I can't remember the title given to him, but he said that the data would be safe. It would be protected by the government, according to him. Those are his words. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The last question. We know when we're talking about digital identity, there's also that thing of digital inclusion, because as we speak, according to the Afrobarometer research that was done, not every part of Kenya has internet connectivity. So how that also looks like is, in as much as we're pushing for digital identity and digital access, there are people who might be excluded because they don't interact with digital connectivity like the urban or peri-urban areas. Yeah. So what would you say, or what is your idea around how does digital inclusion then look like in the electoral space now that we are pushing for it and there are people who don't have, and how can we push for it?
I will refer back to our meeting. And what he said is that currently the National Registration Bureau has mobile registration centers. So they set camp like in the remote areas. They go and set camp there, and they do the voter. They do the ID registration, the Maisha number registration, and these people now get to be included. So they would like send a caravan, do the registration, come back, then you'd go and collect your ID from your chief's office, from your nearest huduma center. Yeah, that's what he said. My take would be that Kenya is rapidly growing. So the inclusion, while it may not be achieved as fast as we would want ideally, We will get there eventually, but it is also the responsibility of every young Kenyan, especially for the youth, because we are working from a perspective where our parents did not have this digital, movement, and so the transition may be slower.
Mhm.
But for the young people, I feel like it is our responsibility. It is every youth's responsibility to ensure that they have that they are part of with the people. They are part of the people of Kenya as they are recognized.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any other parting shot you'd like to have before we invite the next person for the segment?
What I would say really is a call to our government. We want efficient and effective service delivery. We want for us to have an easy time getting whatever services we need. Today, case in point, today morning, a friend called me and was like, "Yo, I applied to get my passport in 2023 to date. That is 1 year, 7 months later. I have not received it." And she was like, "I want it and I want it today."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Okay, so what's the plan?" So she told me, "Let us go to Nyayo House. Let us go and demand for the passport." So we went there and we were sent from office to office, office to office. Nobody really wanted to take the blame. While this follow-ups could be made online, you know, while the issue, as it was claimed, was that when they were moving data from an older system to a newer system, whatever their technical names are, the data got suspended, got caught up somewhere in between, it's lagged, so it's never moved. So 1 year, 7 months later, she has never received her passport because data hung somewhere. You see, she's being excluded from so much on account of when we were moving, we did not, data did not flow. So what we'd want for the government to do for us is to allow for thoroughness in the digital movement. We need to move beyond the paper age. We're not moving into a whole new world of possibilities. We need to vote from home, not to stand in the sun and the rain and the elements of weather for the whole day to cast your votes. We need to be able to obtain services, file your tax returns, make your purchases, obtain your good conduct certificate, all those things right now should be online. Let us move away from the keys into more QR codes. Let us move with the rest of the world.
Kutoka milimani,
Thank you very much.
Muungani hadi pwani,
Now we'll be heading
Elogi
into the
na
next
simama
segment.
kwa sauti huru.
Kwa uadilifu na haki, sisi tuko imara. Kenya mpya kwa matumaini ya dhati.
Kutoka kaskazini, kusini, mashariki na magharibi, tunajivunia Kenya, nchi ya
Hi guys, welcome back to the Darubini Uchaguzi podcast for the second segment. And in this segment, I'd like our guest to introduce himself.
Thank you for having me. My name is Nationa. I'm from Identity team, and the major reason what we're doing is civic and political education. We're going around the country, taking people through the constitution to get to know their rights and what they stand for. And personally, would agree with me that things are not right in the country. That is why we're pushing our boundaries to ensure that we reach in everyone, so that we can be able to correct the messes in the country.
Yeah. And that is why we're also creating space to have these conversations, which gives rise to the Darubini Uchaguzi podcast. And just to continue from where your colleague had first started in the first segment, I'll be having discussions along the same line, which is the digital identity. So probably the first question to you will be, now that you've been working in this space for a while, what lessons can you say we have learned from the 2022 voter registration challenges faced by the youth due to the ID mismatches, and how can these issues be addressed moving forward, especially the current state of the country, where we are lamenting about everything and there's a Gen Z uprising.
I think to answer your question, I'll go back to even 2007. Let's start there because that is where the rain started beating us. I remember in 2007 there were irregularities, and which was agreed across nationally and also internationally. That's why we had international observers coming to Kenya to come and try to negotiate between the disputing parties. Then we had Justice Johan Kriegler flew to Kenya to come and kind of analyze the elections that we had in 2007, and there were so many findings that he came up with as a team. So in the Kriegler report, one of the major findings that he came up with was that lack of preparedness, and that is the same thing that we witnessed from 2007, 2013, 2017, and also in 2022. IEBC has never been prepared for an election. That is why, even right now as we're speaking, they've not started yet to register voters, and we are actually having only 2 years to elections. So in the past election, I really believe that there was that issue of lack of preparedness. They started very late to register voters, and many of the youths were actually locked out. Yep.
Love that, love that. I think it's always very important. I'm actually amazed because when you're talking about election discussions, not very many young people are able to articulate the Kriegler report, especially when not working within the electoral cycle space. So you talked about the ongoing trends of actually not being able to follow some of the recommendations that have been given and the current state of electoral unpreparedness. So one thing I'm hoping, even as we're continuing this conversation, is the government will actually listen and hear us out. So we know that the introduction of the Maisha number was supposed to ease with the electoral preparedness, but since it also has an impact on voter inclusion and accessibility, especially for first-time voters and marginalized youth. So what are your thoughts around that?
Personally, I respect that all the ideas that we've ever had in Kenya are right.
Mm-hmm.
The issue comes with implementation.
Mm-hmm.
That is where we have people who have malicious intentions come in, and when they come in, they put a hand on that project. It deviates from being a good project. It becomes a dangerous project for the people. Personally, I believe Maisha number was a brilliant idea, and I truly support it because we are in this contemporary society. We are trying to move away from brick and mortar. We're now coming to a digital era. That is why we've been able to transact even money online, and we've never had issues. I want you to look at the case of M-Pesa. We've been able to transact money through phone. You don't have to give money to someone else via cash. And this was the first thing that was done in Kenya. And then it was later copied by countries like Tanzania, go to Malawi. They have, it's only the only thing that has changed, I think, it's the name. It was a new fintech technology that was actually acquired by across nations in Africa and even outside Africa. I believe we have the knowledge. We have all it takes. We have a learned population that can come up with brilliant ideas. Like now, Maisha number is a brilliant idea. The issue comes with implementation. Like M-Pesa, you can use a USSD code. There's nothing that is hampering anyone if they have a phone from logging into M-Pesa. The same thing can happen in an election. Why are we not able to vote using an SSD code? Can you tell me why?
Honestly,
because if someone is in northern Kenya where there is no network, at least they have a 3G network, they can be able to use a SSD code and be able to buy even bundles. So if it can connect to a server, that network is enough to facilitate an election.
I like the fact that you said USSD code because, first of all, two things running through my mind when you're saying that. Many people assume that when we talk about digital inclusion, it's past the USSD code, it's QR codes and the rest. So I think with the USSD code, it makes it easier. That's my first thought. Then the second thing, having read reports around elections and tech, I stand corrected if I'm wrong. I think one of the biggest factors we have in our election is lack of trust. Ndio maana tunaonanga vitu zinaprintiwa nje zinaletwa. Why? Because we cannot trust that our vendors in River Road can print, make it right, and give it to us as citizens. So yeah, probably we could do USSD, but will people trust that the results are credible? Partial.
I think that is one of the things that we are trying to push as a group. We're trying to decolonize, not in a bad way, but in a good way. We're trying to decolonize the minds of people and tell them, we have technology now, we have AI coming in, we have to embrace these technologies. We cannot live with brick and mortar daily like our parents did. It's a new era. In fact, what we need to do right now, I think, is more of civic education. How can we target those people in the villages? How can this information get them? I believe the government has everything that it takes to reach these people. It's only, and as I said earlier, it brings us back to the lack of good intention. If the government wanted to do it, it will do it even tomorrow. So it all draws back to the government. Yes, and the people who are occupying those particular seats.
Interesting. Are there any other trends or probably case studies that you have seen, except from the ones that you have noted in these particular discussions, that you could probably share?
Yeah, there is another system whereby people, but this one now is limited because it's limited to only people who actually learn it. Like in the US, I'm told they use their emails to vote, and even when it comes to verification. So when it comes to Kenya, we can adopt. I mean, what we only need to do. We have the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology. This lies on their docket, but because, as the saying goes, that the people who are occupying power are clueless, and the people who do not have power have the knowledge. So I believe the ICT has a role to play in this case. Let them come up with a competition. Let them give Kenyan. I believe 20% of the people that are, like, personally in my cohort, I think 50% of the population that we joined in campus together, a majority of them did computer related courses. We have all this knowledge. Can we leverage this knowledge that we have and have some sort of a competition whereby can we come up with a system so that the one who comes up with a system that can build trust from the people that cannot be hacked, let it be tested, let it go through scrutiny. I believe we are able to come up with a system that can be able to run a whole election without even having people going through the same things that we waiting for 7 days to have results out. We can actually have results within a day, and that will bring trust. Yeah.
Love that. When you're talking about tech, love the fact that you said people should move from brick and mortar ways to more inclusive ways. So I don't know, do you perhaps have an idea on how diaspora voting is done?
Yeah, I think it's actually done the same way as we do.
Yeah.
It's only that the transmission of those results is what is done electronically. Yeah, but they do go and cast their votes as we do here in Kenya. Yeah.
Do you know that they're allowed to only vote for the president?
Yes, I'm very sure.
And I just wanted to know, do you think the same way we employ technology to allow them to vote for the president, that there should be some sort of fairness and equality within the technology that is used to also allow them to exercise their rights? to vote for other people digitally.
Yeah, that one I do agree 100% because some of these people in diaspora are really contributing greatly to our economy.
Yes.
And where they come from, there are people who own companies, there are people who own who run farms, even schools. So if we allow them to vote even for the local leaders like the governors, the members of parliament, in a way we actually including them in the governance process, because if they are not given a chance to elect a governor that they believe is going to deliver, in a way we hamper them from exercising their constitutional rights. So you can imagine a guy in the US who has set up a farm in Kenya is maybe dealing with milk products. And then a governor comes in who has no clue. And now because we deny this person a chance to vote for the guy he felt like can turn things around, this person comes in, he has no clue on how milk products can actually can be facilitated in a county, or what kind of things that can be done so that farmers can have more knowledge on daily farming. This company will crumble down, you see. But if we give them a chance to elect the people that they thought that they've listened to, and they thought that these people have knowledge when it comes to farming and stuff, this person would have made a right choice to save this farm from crumbling down. But what do? We denied them a chance. And that is how, and majority of these people in the US are informed, unlike the people in the rural areas who are not informed.
True.
Not in a bad way, but it's true. It's factual that majority of the people in the rural areas are not informed. So when we deny a chance for these people who are informed not to vote, I think we're making a big mistake as a country.
True.
Yeah.
Love that you have also highlighted that the informed should also be allowed to make an informed
Wherever they
decision
are.
wherever they are. Yeah. So we also know that with inclusivity also and digital expansion brings its risks. So my question to you will then be, what safeguards should be put in place to ensure that the Maisha number system does not lead to data misuse, surveillance, or the exclusion of vulnerable communities?
That one starts with transparency. You see, at this point, it sounds like it's me and you who understands what Maisha card is. If I call my mom tonight and ask her, what is Maisha card? She has no information. What does it entail? She has no information. She's actually clueless about Maisha card. So let us start with transparency. Let's educate people. Let the government come out point blank and tell people, this is what Maisha card entails. These are the benefits, these are the opportunities, and these are the risks. And the kind of information that we're taking from you, this is where it is safeguarded. This is what we intend to do with your information. But then now look at our case. The government just tells us there's something called Maisha card, but they don't give out information. What is this? It means that you have to be educated for you to go dig, get the information about this Maisha card and what it entails and what it's going to do for the country. But then what about this person who is not informed? All right. So let us start from transparency. I think from there it will at least cover this issue of people asking, what is this all about? Because there's trust issues with this thing. And that is where it started. So to safeguard it, as I said, let us be transparent. Let us ensure that we're having good leaders in place, especially those people who sit in the National Assembly. If we had a member of parliament who can who can table a motion in parliament and ask the government to come out point blank on the details of Maisha card, I think it will save so many people. The government will be clear on this information. Like the same way they printed this constitution and they availed to everyone. It is the same thing. I expect that the information and the details that they are taking from individuals and where they take them, who is the patron of this thing, who is the head of this thing, and how much it costed, is the same way with this constitution. Let them bring and avail all this information out here. First, it will build trust, and people will have that easiness of going to register.
Thank you. So, in what ways do you think now civic education can strengthen to ensure that young people understand their digital identity rights, consent in terms of digital identity, and responsibilities within the digital identity systems like Maisha namba, in order to be able to hold the correct government institutions? Yeah.
Civic education is very important, and as I said earlier, we need to give people reasons why they need to register for Maisha card. And then again, this takes us back to where we started, the issue of transparency. Let us be point blank, let us be honest with the people where we are taking this information. At this point, we are very privileged that we have social media, we have Twitter, we have TikTok, and if the government wanted to leverage some of these social media platforms, it would be very easy for them to put across the information. But then again, as I said, there's no good intention with any government that has ever existed in Kenya. Yeah.
Very true. I love that. Anyway, I think I'd want to hear what your parting shot is before I give my thoughts.
My parting shot would be to all the young people maybe who are watching this. This is our time. We've been told that our future is tomorrow, but the future is today. You don't know whether you'll be existing tomorrow. Do your best today. Do what you think can save this country. You don't have to have billions or millions in your account for you to save this country. Do the little that you can. Educate those people that you see in your village who are not well informed with the constitution and how government operates. That is what we want to see. And going to the future, let's remember that the governments have always touched our future. Let's not wait until they touch the future of our children and our descendants. If our parents came out hard as we're doing right now, Kenya wouldn't be where we are today. We don't blame them because they never had the opportunities that we have today, like education and social media and stuff, and even technology. We cannot really blame them. Maybe they did what they had to do during their time. So let it be about the future of our kids, because already our future is touched. I don't see any young people becoming rich as these politicians are. Yeah, maybe you start stealing like them. That's how you're going to get rich.
Which is very questionable. So I wouldn't advise you to steal, but I would advise you to give other people an opportunity to learn the way you have learned. And if you have an opportunity perhaps to do advocacy, to share, and to teach, you can also do that. I'd want him to share his social media pages so that as we are also doing group advocacy or organizational advocacy at a personal level, he has also been working with identity too, so he is also grounded in that. So perhaps you can give us his socials and share with us.
Thank you. Maybe even before I give my social handles, it will be good to give the social handles of our team. You can search us on Facebook, Twitter, and also on Instagram, TikTok as Identity Yetu. And my personal social media handles are at biometric everywhere, so be it Facebook or TikTok or Instagram. Yep.
My closing shot, as a young person working in this space, individual power adds to collective power. So as a young person, I want you to understand and know that your voice matters, your digital voice and footprint adds to the collective count of bringing in the digital inclusion that we want to see in the electoral space. So we should understand that that is our gateway to participation. So as we think about election, let's also be comfortable around topics such as data justice, data equity, and civic rights in the electoral space. So let's organize speak out more, and make sure that no one is invisible with the next Kenyan general election and vote in the 2027. Share in your language, translate it to Meru, Kikuyu, and any language that makes it more accessible to people. And with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. I invite you to follow our social media pages, elog at KNY, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Yeah, I am your host, and I am glad to have held this session. Thank you.
Kutoka milimani, Bungani hadi pwani, leo inasimama kwa sauti huru.
Kwa uadilifu na haki, sisi tuko imara. Kenya mpya kwa matumaini ya dhati.